working with farmers, with ranchers, with agricultural companies to improve sustainability. That means we work with them. I couldn't be prouder. To have earned the trust of our agricultural community is what keeps me going.
Hi there. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today. We're excited you're here. We're excited to be here on our first podcast here with the UC Davis Clear Center. My name is Tracy Sellers. I'm one of the hosts you'll see on the podcast. My background is I've worked for the Clear Center for about a year now as a writer. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And before that, I worked for the California Farm Bureau. I worked on a TV show that they produced, which was all about farm to fork and where your food really comes from. And so on that show, I was able to ask the questions maybe you all have out there about agriculture and about food and farming, because I didn't come from a background of agriculture. So I have a lot of the questions that you might have out there as well. So I'll ask those on this podcast as well. But the real star of the show is the gentleman next to me, Dr. Frank Mitloehner from the Clear Center. He's the director of the Clear Center, and I'll have him introduce himself to you all and tell us a little bit about the Clear Center.
Thank you, Tracy. And hello, everybody. Yeah, my name is Frank Mitloehner. The question I get all the time is, how do you pronounce that last name? It's a good question. It's like to learn, Mitloehner, okay? And this name, as you might imagine, is not from here. I originally come from Germany. That was 27 years ago. Spent half of my life there and the second half here in the States. And what do I do here? Well, I'm a professor and I'm an air quality specialist. And that means I study the air impact and climate impacts of livestock. I'm also the director of the Clear Center, and this Clear Center we established about 6 years ago. We established this Clear Center out of the need that was raised by an interested public where their food comes from. You know, just like what you had learned in your earlier career, that people are interested in more details around food production, not just researching, but also sharing. So science communication is very important to us.
Well, Frank, I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention that we do get some criticism out there for the Clear Center. What would you say to folks out there that do have criticism about what we're trying to do with the Clear Center and with agriculture and farming and ranching and communicating the message out there?
You know, Tracy, obviously one of my main jobs is to do extension work, and that means working with farmers, with ranchers, with agricultural companies to improve sustainability. That means we work with them to improve welfare, environmental quality, and so forth. And that means that we are there on their farms, on their ranches, doing research, communicating that research with the rest of the world. This is not something secretive. This is not something we do hush-hush. This is our mission. This is my job description, okay? So there are some activist people out there who think they have a gotcha moment when they find out that I was someplace in the world working with some kind of a company or farm or ranch. That's not a gotcha moment. That is what I do, okay? And I just want to be very clear about it. And that's why we're here, and that's why people listen and watch us. They want to know.
And we're proud of that connection we have with.
Absolutely. I couldn't be prouder. To have earned the trust of our agricultural community is what keeps me going. And you know, Tracy, some people find it negative that we receive funding from agriculture. I have news for them. 60%, 60, of all funding in agriculture stems from private sources, 40% from public sources, okay? So what we do is absolutely normal and is something that is important because we want the farming sector to understand that they need to be the ones who contribute to the solving of problems that are also associated with what they do, okay? So it costs money, yes, and some of that money goes to us, but not for some kind of fishy reasons, but in order to get the work done to improve what we do, how we raise our animals, how we do our farming, and so forth.
You felt the need out there. How did you feel that need from people, that there was an interest in understanding it more? How did you feel that from the public out there?
So in general, I feel most consumers don't ask too many questions, okay? They go to the supermarket, they want tasty food, they want affordable food. Some of them also look at nutrition labels and so on. And most consumers will not ask questions around sustainability, except for many of the younger ones. So the ones who are in my lecture hall, the 20-year-olds and so on, they now ask questions about, how is this food versus that food versus the other food raised? Was it sustainably raised, environmentally sustainably raised? What was the welfare of those animals that I'm buying products from? What was the welfare like? They ask issues around workers and so forth. So it's not just price and taste, but it's also how was that food raised? And I find it a very valid question, one that we take seriously, and we talk about it bluntly.
Yeah, and we bring the facts to you, and that's something that we're going to be doing on this podcast, because the other question out there I would assume you would have too is, why another podcast? Why another podcast out there? But we think ours is going to be special in the sense that we're going to bring meaningful, thoughtful conversations to you from a wide variety of people in the agricultural community. We're going to talk about things. We're going to make complex subjects in agriculture digestible and understandable, because I think that's also an issue out there, is sometimes, especially with research and data, it can be dry and difficult to understand, but you're great at making it relatable to the public. How do you do that? I'm just curious, how do you do that?
My father passed away 5 years ago. Before he passed away, he said to me something that always stuck to my memory. He said to me, "Frank, do good things and talk about them. Do good things and talk about them," he said. And what he meant by that was, do the research that you do as a scientist and get it published and presented. That's what you do as a scientist. But if you stop there and don't take it to the next level of communicating that in ways that people understand, then you have fallen short. So do good things and talk about them is a motto that's not just mine and the one of the Clear Center, but it should be all of ours. Because if there's one thing we are really bad at in agriculture, it is doing just that, telling our story. I'm not talking about PR, I'm not talking about marketing. I'm talking about fact-based communication done in ways that people understand. And that seems to be a concept many people don't understand in academia. In fact, I've learned that among the worst communicators in the world are colleagues of mine, professors. They think they need to shine by being very elaborate and very technical, but by doing so, they're losing their audience. And that's a problem. Equally important is that those people who produce food learn that they are also a very important part of telling the story. Because they're actually very believable, because they are the ones out there doing the job. And if people ask them, how is this milk produced or how is this meat produced, the worst thing they can do is sending folks away and saying no comment. Because if they do that, then what does it look like? It looks like they have something to hide. If ever there was something that you're not proud of, things that happen on your farm that you're not proud of, that you're not willing to share, then you have a problem that you need to address, okay? So don't just ignore it, but take it by the horn, so to say, no pun intended.
And knowledge is power, right? And we want to give you the knowledge about how food is produced in this country, because then you can make powerful decisions about how you buy that food and consume that food. The other question I had for you, besides pronouncing your last name, is there a common question folks ask you about when it comes to research and sustainability and emissions and agriculture?
They definitely ask me, how do you define sustainability? What does sustainability mean to you? And here there are very different kind of viewpoints, okay? So if you ask consumers, then sustainability means a lot to many of them. but what most of them refer to is environmental sustainability. To me, sustainability is broader, and let me just summarize that really briefly, okay? Sustainability, in my view, is environmental sustainability. That's one of the 5 pillars of sustainability. And environmental sustainability addresses how that food that we eat has affected air quality, water quality, climate, or soil. So that's the environmental pillar of sustainability. Second one is animal welfare. Have those animals been raised humanely before eventually they get harvested? And that's an issue many people are very much interested in and concerned about. Animal welfare. Third one is food safety and product quality. Is that food that I'm buying safe to eat? Are there any concerns? It's a very important sustainability issue. Any kind of outbreak of a disease like E. coli, salmonella, or any of that would be obviously affecting the sustainability of the farm it was raised on. The fourth pillar of sustainability are workers. Attracting and retaining a qualified workforce is absolutely paramount. In my opinion, besides the financial aspect of sustainability, workers are the most important issue. If you cannot attract a qualified workforce, you are in trouble. And we are seeing that right now in the United States, where many undocumented workers are kicked out, and farmers are wondering who in the world will do the job. And the fifth pillar for and of sustainability is financial viability. If you're not financially viable, you are not in business. It's an old saying, you can't be green if you're in the red. So environmental, animal welfare, food safety, product quality, then workers, and financial viability. These are the 5 pillars of sustainability. Now, many farmers do not like the term sustainability. When I first came to the States, when I did my PhD in Texas, I overheard a discussion where one professional talked to somebody else about me, okay, and I eavesdropped, okay, totally unintentionally, but I did. And the one said, so what do you think about this Frank guy? And the guy who was asked said, yeah, I like him. He has this strange German accent, but I like him. But I wish he weren't using that S word all the time. And I thought, the S word? What the heck is the S word? And it was just that, sustainability. And in the following years, the same people who had that discussion organized whole conferences in Texas on sustainability in animal agriculture. So the views have changed, okay? People in agriculture now understand if our customers, our clients, if they are interested in a concept, in a topic that we might not, we better do get educated, we better address it. And I have news for those folks too. Sustainability is nothing other than stewardship. And stewardship is a term that many people in agriculture are very positive toward. What does it mean to be a good steward? It means that you are a good steward to your soil, air, water, that's the environmental part, that you're a good steward to those animals, that you treat them well, that you're a good steward to the products you produce, that they are safe to be consumed, that you're a good steward to the people who work with you and for you, and that you're a good steward to those financial resources you have. Because if you're not there. You're not there for forever, for long. So stewardship and sustainability are actually very, very similar. Consumers oftentimes use sustainability, producers more stewardship. Get over it. It's important for all of us.
It's funny that the two words are similar, but people have different connotations about each of them, I guess, depending on which side you land on.
What's really important is not to view this as some kind of marketing or so. This is not marketing. This is the hallmark of what we do in agriculture, okay? We have to take it serious. We have to make it a priority. It's the legacy of your farm, of your ranch, as to whether or not you are a good steward and whether you are sustainable.
I'm glad you brought that up because this isn't marketing. This podcast is going to look at sustainability through a science-based lens and bring you data and real-time evidence and real-life evidence to talk about agriculture and have real conversations about agriculture. I want to go back real quick to what you had mentioned earlier about some of the disconnect too, about some people don't ask questions about how their food is consumed, but some of your students do. Why do you think there is such a disconnect and kind of a knowledge gap in understanding where our food comes from?
Some of it is generational. My parent generation, your parent generation, they grew up in times where food was something you would eat. Yes, it was enjoyable at times, not always, but enjoyable. It was affordable. People just asked fewer questions. It was more a question of taste and money. But today, that generation, our parents' generation, just take it pretty much for granted that the food they buy in the supermarket is safe, is nutritious, is good quality, and so on. The younger generation is questioning all of these concepts much more. A lot of the activists that are out there, particularly on social media, whose intent it oftentimes is to cast doubt in our food system. They have been successful by telling people it's dangerous to eat this food, or it's not good for you to eat that food, or there are unintended consequences of eating certain types of food. And so when you hear this a lot, then after a while some of that sticks. And that's what I hear a lot. I teach many students. We have 1,600 undergraduate students in this department. We're the largest animal science department in the United States. And I teach all of them sooner or later. And so that means a lot of exposure to that generation. And that's how I really know. Not just from the classroom, but also because they come to my office hours sooner or later. And there I meet them individually. So that's where I get really interesting insights into how that generation feels things and so forth.
Anything surprising to you, just out of curiosity? Anything that kind of catches you off guard?
Yeah, you oftentimes hear people my age talking badly about this current generation of students and almost talking down on them. And I couldn't disagree more. I think it's a very interesting generation, okay? You definitely have to get their attention. And their attention span is shorter than that of earlier generations. But once you have their attention, boy, they are a force to be reckoned with. I really enjoy them. I really have a good time with them. But I also know you need to work hard to get them interested. But once they're there, they're awesome.
Okay, good. And you're doing amazing research. Do you want to plug some of the research we're doing here?
Yeah, the research we do is largely around improving sustainability. And we are particularly tackling issues that we know are soft spots, are issues that could be considered problems. So, for example, it gets pretty hot in California. The question is, do we need to have means to reduce heat stress in beef, dairy, swine, other livestock species? In my opinion, the answer is yes. So we have done a lot of research into finding ways to minimizing stressful conditions and improving animal husbandry, animal housing. We have done a lot of work around workers. The thought is oftentimes that on a farm, there could be emissions stemming from that farm that affect human health. And human health then emissions leaving the farm affecting nearby communities and people's health. You also find people saying, how about the people who work on the farms? What are they exposed to? Ammonia gas, hydrogen sulfide, certain particles, dust particles, flies, and so on. So those questions arise. And so we have done studies, and some of them multi-million-dollar studies, on minimizing emissions from farms so that people as well as animals are not affected by emissions from these farms to people or to animals. And that research has had real consequences, real good impact. We are doing a lot of research on reducing gases, reducing particles from beef, dairy, swine, poultry facilities, and in particular research on how to minimize the carbon footprint, meaning the footprint of a farm on the warming of our planet. And here in particular, research that focuses on reducing methane and nitrous oxide, two of the most important climate-forcing compounds.
So you're doing research here that really impacts not just state, country, worldwide. I mean, and you have people that are interested worldwide in the research you're doing as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, if all that isn't enough, you will learn something every time you tune into a podcast, because every time I've spoken with this man, I have learned something. So I can guarantee you will learn something from this podcast. Well, we hope you will continue to join us on the podcast. We have some amazing guests coming up from all over the country and all over the world as well. And if you go to our YouTube channel, you will find some amazing videos on there as well from all over the country and all over the world as well. Dr. Mitloehner has traveled all over the world and spoken with farmers and ranchers and talked about sustainability and really some amazing stories, visually impactful stories, I would say as well. Anything you want to say about those videos?
Well, I'm really proud of them. We have a very talented team of communicators as part of the Clear Center, and oftentimes we travel together, and what comes out of it just blows me away.
And be sure to follow us on social media, because we are doing great things and we want to talk about them. And we hope you will join the conversation. Thank you again for joining us, and we will see you again next time.